I'm going to share with you guys my full, journal, my full documents, my heritage, and everything like that. Because this is something I want to share. I know this video is going to be long, and I know long formats, people or the algorithm doesn't really recommend them anymore. I know the shorts were getting more views, and yeah, I did switch over to TikTok, and for TikTok, for short and long content, does better over there, and that's what it has been doing for me. But I thought I'd just share you guys this, and there's going to be some clips as well included in this, sharing, my full, heritage, and even photo albums, and even talking, and showing and doing the math that, yes, I can go back 6 generations, which is 195 years of my family, and even be including a clip of my father's military services, or military wall that I have made for him. My dad has been passed on for about 5 years due to cancer. But yeah, so I'll go ahead and get started. I'll even include one clip showing a few native sacreds. So, and this right here are a few traveling journals, if you will. A few traveling journals, right? That belong to my dad and his mother. I don't have much of documents when it comes to his side of the family. I wish I could find about one of the people they were related to who was about to go into the office to be Pope, because they come from a very strong, Catholic heritage background, which I'll get more into later on as the video progresses. This one right here, first journal, my dad's handwriting in it, and I don't have very many things of my father. He just wasn't the type to keep stuff. He wasn't much for pictures, if you will. He had not the best childhood because of his dad. But my dad, for a while, and I mean a good long while, yeah, he left home early. He went up in the mountains for quite a long time as a mountain man, as a pioneer. At the age of 18, he joined the service for the military for Vietnam. And again, you guys are gonna see, the last of that clip in this video. It's gonna be towards the end of it. After the military for 8 years, he came back into the mountains, and then, he would live in town. He would eventually would meet my mother, right? Then we'll get more into that. This right here is his mother's traveling journal. Now, I don't know my grandmothers. Never met them. My dad's mom, yes, I was still alive when she passed, but I just have no recollection of her. Now, my mom's mom, I know she passed before I was born. That I do know. And everything like that. that's it for this one. So I'm going to put those right up over here. This right here is my journal. Alright, so we're going to open it. Hopefully you guys will be able to see that to the best that I can. I don't have anything to truly, I would say, held up. So, yeah. Half of these are sketches that I have did. And some of the earlier parts is documenting my time in Yellowstone back in '08. This right here, outline rough sketch of the Lady of the Rockies and Butte up in the mountains. This sketch right here of a skeleton outline of a teepee. I think it was in Wyoming. This is a picture of a sunset that I sketched out, that I took, that I actually have the picture still throughout, I think throughout Wyoming at the time. Right here, sketch of there was this older guy. He was a cosplayer of a pioneer, and they used to have Pioneer Day. They don't do that or have that anymore, unfortunately. But my dad, he was out of it for so long that every time he would see this guy, he would just get excited. Like, he would go to the school and he would use like, when is the kids are gonna have Pioneer Day, so he could see this guy. Right here is just a sketch of a walking stick of mine. Right here is a sketch from a photo I took about almost 5 years ago, back in 2021, when I was exploring within one of the Lewis and Clark caverns, or the caves, that you guys can see footage of. If you go on my playlist, I do have a home videos playlist on this channel. Just some chips in a little basket. One of my little favorite Mexican joints I like to eat at now and then. Sketch of one of my drinks ain't around anymore. Talking about having red, white, and blue ice cream. The name of the drink, I can't barely read it, but P, I think LNITY, because I like the fruit punch ones. Here, just a little drawing of my dad. Like I said, he's been passed. We didn't have the best relationship for 29 years, and on his deathbed, on that 30th year, we patched things up because we needed to, and I was there to take care of him for 6 months until he took his last breath. I got him to his appointments, made sure he got his meds, fed him, bathed him, clothed him. Just a few other little things, more little sketches of a Duck River down here, and a little sketch of fireworks talking about that. Another sketch of my dad, and people talking about seeing snakes again in town. There usually are, not crazy, but sketch of a native I did, because I'm Native American. Sketch of somebody I know. A sketch of my dad right here, and talking about that, and done that, and the day he passed away, which was July 15th of 2021. A sketch of me with my thoughts going into certain things. Right here, a little sketch right here. I know it's a bit hard to see, right? 2 chicken wings right there, and my dad used to kind of bring them home. I miss that. Me talking about exploring in the ring, shooting. I love going shooting when I can. I love my revolvers. Right here, a few of my thoughts on this side. Talking about camping once upon a time. I don't really miss it that much. There's really not a lot of campsites here in Tennessee, though. little sketch I did about somebody I usually see now and then. A few years ago, I went to Indianapolis, and it's been like 28 years since I last been. A sketch of my goth cousin I haven't seen in a long time. A little quote from a native civilization and everything right there. Sketch of my first love right there. Sketch from sometimes I would take walks early in the morning, and that is a real owl feather I found from the actual owl, which was white. Another little journal thought entry right there. Go ahead and try to see if I can turn the page. That would be great. Usually now and then I see some deer, some wildlife. Right. Other little things that I would write about the sketch. A few more. Right here, that's Chief Robert Bobtall, or Small Boy, right there. He created the Chippewa Cree, or for the tribe, which would be the Stonechild Rocky Boy Reservational tribe that used to be in Butte before the U.S. government took it over and ran them out to Canada. That was actually my ancestor, and his dad, Chief Robert, was involved in the Civil War, and his son was involved in World War I at the time, or World War II. We'll get more about that. This is just a lovely picture I really enjoy right here of this mother and her child. Native mother, native child. Right here, last time I was with two of my uncles. All three are gone. It was a long time ago. Talk about seeing a raccoon and a deer. More entry thoughts. Just a few things to add right there. And again, a few more entry thoughts. A sketch of my ex and a feather right there. Right here talks about my grandfather, my mom's dad. He's been passed on for quite a long time, since 1995. It's a little moral thing in this right here, right? His mugshot, and I'm going to include a video talking about that in this when I was showing certain secrets, because I have a bigger one of this. One of my teeth I got pulled out. Photo of my ex right there. Going to right here. Yeah, I used to, arms getting tired. Used to be involved in music. Right there, only picture some people see of me on the streets. I used to have a whole bunch of them. I still do, but I don't glorify it. And a picture of me in black and white holding a lot of fish that I caught one time. Photo of my dad during Christmas. Black and white photo of me and my uncles. My grandfather, right? We'll get more in about that. My uncles right there, me. Some other photos at the bottom, whatnot. Group photo when I was in Head Start at the bottom of the receipt. When I put in the renewal for my dad's medals. Picture of my dad during his years in the military, from 18 to 20. Yeah. They even drew and talked about my wagon that I used so much that it just wore out completely until I either get another one or I build one. A picture from a moose that I have from Yellowstone, and go into more about right here. And Chief Robert, one in color, one in black and white. This black-white photo of the native mother and child. I just love this photo. And that right there is my other great ancestor, Chief Robert Sr. right there. Again, we'll get more and about that. If we go into, so here we have, we got Sitting Bull, we got Wild Bill, we got, I forget this guy's name, but he's like one of the best mountain men as far as I'm concerned. You know, Chief Robert Jr. and Sr. Even right there, my great-grandfather, who was an Italian immigrant who served in World War I. My Uncle Ben, who served in World War II. Part Italian, part Native. And of course, my dad. Talking about a few of the other women in my life. Right there. Things out of that nature. Me and my mom on the reservation. So this right here, and you guys can't see that, but we'll get more about that and I'll read that. This is because I come from a huge military family. I am part black, but I'm part Caribbean black. And I got documents to show that. So it says African American Regent, Buffalo Soldiers, April 12th, 1861 through April 9th, 1865. Civil War, Chief Rocky Boy, Chippewa Leader, 1851, April 18th, 1916, April 12th, 1861 to April 9th, 1865, Civil War. And then Chief Robert Bob Tall, Small Boy, November 7th, 1889, July 8th, 1984, July 28th, 1914, November 11th, 1918, World War I. The Salvatore Di Pasquale Sr., my great-grandfather was the Italian immigrant. March 23rd, 1888. He passed away sometime in April of 1973. July 28th, 1914 through November 11th of 1918, World War I. Benjamin C. Goodman. November 6th, 1924, January 16th, 1997, September 1st, 1939 through September 2nd of 1945, World War II, Kevin Dean Neff, my father, July 7th, 1962, July 15th, 2021, 1975 through 1985, Cold War / Vietnam. Got some printed photos here of my family. My grandfather, Black Italian, his kids, Black Italian and Native American. All of them are gone. Picture of me at my time within the streets. A lot of money holding that and talking about that. You know, things like that for a while may look good and glamorous, but how much is it truly worth to be in it, you know? Few photos of me right there, and I got this right here that I put together and I printed out a while back. Right there, something I drew right there. Ticket and the printed out poster of when I saw Beetlejuice too. Some sequels are worth the wait. And then we have another drawing here, right there. I did. Arms are getting a bit tired for this one. And this goes right here. Right, let me kind of hold that right there. You guys can see that. Let me kind of move that up. I don't feel like holding it so much. Hopefully you guys can still see. A copy of one of my favorite drawings. Few drawings that a lot of people enjoyed that I did. you know, kind of get that in my, right up around there. And I got a few more here in this little envelope right here. I can get that for you guys right there. Why is this one just, I don't even need to be in there. That one's blank. Here's this one right there. I don't draw anymore, unfortunately, or paint, sketch. One, colorblind now. Two, I don't know, my glaucoma is getting worse, and I do have to register now to get full examination to be as, you know, Rich as legally blind. So it is now very difficult for me to actually now see what sucks. It really does. There's that one. So right here, my mom's mugshot, my mugshot. You know, I would say, you know, a good portion of my family, yeah, we all had experience doing time. You know, that's not really something you want to leave within your, you know, your family, you know, legacy, your family, you know, heritage. It's nothing to brag about. I like this photo, and I miss that jacket I had. Black and yellow leather with zippers all over it. And a copy of a flyer folder of mine back when I was in music right there. Maybe I can get this a little bit closer. Oh, it should work. A picture of me and somebody, you know, we off and on at times. Another photo of me right there. Going through some old yearbooks of mine, and I actually found the image of the cosplayer, the Pioneer guy my dad really enjoyed seeing. This is from almost 2 years ago. Yeah. For my birthday is like probably the last birthday I actually had, because I'd been without one for so long, so I had like Wednesday / Beetlejuice thing right there. Drawing I did right there, downsized it, different sizes of it. Still got the original photo, somebody from the Western days, natives, and somebody, actually a conquistador. I'm not Latino, but I actually like that photo. Again, a bit more talking about it, more pictures of natives and everything, and my cousin, this right here, this woman, right, is my great grandmother, Black Caribbean. She was born in 1870 in Houston, Texas. She was born a slave, and her family did serve in the Civil War to become freemen, right? And I do have documents about that. She was married to my great grandfather, my Italian grandfather I told you guys about. So they had a child, and we're gonna get more into that. That child was my mom's dad, Black and Italian, which would be this guy right here, Salvatore Jr. It's his obituary. His brother, again, my Uncle Ben, the guy that served in World War II, they may not have looked related, and I got pictures to show what they look like within color. But you got to keep in mind, like, you know, you can have the same dad, 2 different moms, just like you can have the same mom, 2 different dads. Old native, my mother's old native ID. My great aunt, Mary Chapman, she was a blind Native woman. And this right here is a little Native funeral card thing. You don't really see a lot of that with a Native poem on there within the Chippewa Cree language. I like these right here, and I actually have the full documents with these. When Wild Bill took the Lakota natives across seas, he took them on his Wild Bill stage show, and it started within took it from Chicago to New York to London. My cousin right there. This right here, my dad's brother, obituary. We believe the woman he was with, we believe that she may have killed him because she left him in just filth. And when he passed, it took a while for everybody kind of knew that he passed, but that house was empty and the woman and her kids just left and nobody knows where they went to. We do believe they may have changed their name because I couldn't find her on Facebook, the cousin of mine. So yeah, this is his funeral thing right there, and that's my mom's mom, my grandmother's. My grandmother's old Social Security thing. My great grandfather's, when he was out of town, one of his marriage certificates, he went through 2 marriages. The first one he described with my great grandmother I showed you guys about. He said it was like 25-15 marriage of hell. Yeah. This is where we get now into some good stuff. I've got family documents here when it comes going into more of my heritage and showing these things. Right? So put that right there. This right here. Right here. That's a crest, family crest when it comes to the Joneses, right? Because I'm a Jones as well. When it comes to the Caribbean islands here, where my great-grandmother's from. And these 2 lands are in Havre, Montana. And back in the 1920s, right up north, this is native land. The natives did hide them here because back in the 1920s up north, if you were somebody of a different nationality being with somebody else of a different nationality, or if you were white being with somebody who was either native or black or what have you, it was actually considered a death sentence illegal, especially if you had a half-breed child, and that half-breed child would be either killed or took away. So you got to think about that. Luckily, they were able to have their kid, and it was never caught. This is my great-grandfather's World War I drafts right here I found. I had them printed out. Just like this one right here, right? This right here is just a letter describing certain things that was founded about my great-grandmother and her family, which we're about to get fully into. This right here, printed out part of Montana. Montana was involved in the Civil War, regardless of what the internet says, okay? This part right here is the region of Havre, Montana, where a lot of the Buffalo Soldiers were stationed and fought at. Right here, a sticky note, right there. And the picture of my Black Caribbean ancestors who served in the Civil War. And we're about to get more into this when it comes into them becoming freemen, right? Not everybody who was black of black heritage is African ascent. A lot of them would come from those who are Haitians from Hades,
from Jamaica to Caribbean to the Caribbeans, and most black people are even from, Europe within Spain. So after the Civil War, and a lot of people think slavery was abolished afterwards. It wasn't. Slavery did still keep going until World War One, and that's when it truly ended. But after the Civil War and a little bit before World War One, a lot of black people were reclassified as African American, and not everybody who's black has African ascent. Like, I'm showing you guys, yeah, I'm of a mixed heritage, right? Yes, I'm part black, but I'm not African. I'm, Caribbean ascent from the Caribbean islands. So stuff like that to me is really important. And a lot of slavery traveled mainly up north right after the Civil War. Right after. I would love to go to the museum here and see this. This is belonged to Scott Philip Jones, 10th Regiment, Civil War. It's in the museum. It's in the Harvard Museum. I do feel like calling up there and seeing if they still got that. Let them know, hey, I'm related to this person, ancestor. I have paperwork. Is that jacket still up there? It's like, and if they say, yeah, I know I can't get up there, I'm on my way down south, then I'm going to say, is it possible to send photos of that, everything kind of attached to it, and, video, so I can have that for myself. Even if I have to fax everything to prove, I would. I would do that. Here it is, the Clark Museum in Harvard, right there. The Clark Museum in Harvard. Talks about my great-grandfather's death, Salvatore Sr. They were involved in building one of the
not just the museum, but the fort for the Civil War. And, you know, within that time of the military through, you know, even before leading up to the Civil War, you know, even after, you know, a lot of, you know, people from the Native Americans to the mountain men, even to a lot of the black people, you know, the military and the government really screwed a lot of them over when taking claim for stuff like this and not giving that credit recommendation. And at one time in history, I think like around 1920s, right? Maybe 1930s, the government, with a few of the military parts, for certain people and families involved, only got a payout of $100 to $500, you know, which is just, it happens. It really does. It happens. And you got to think about where most of those things ended up getting credit to, which was Lewis and Clark, which they had nothing to do with really finding anything. They sent people to do that, you know. So they took credit for a lot of stuff, and you know, that estate never answered for a lot of the stealing either. Never answered for it. I'm going to be getting to the Rocky Boys. I am related to the Rocky Boys as well as the Buffaloes. This is where we get now to my native heritage. Copies of a lot of the documents. Most of these were misplaced, unfortunately. Luckily, I got the copies to things. And one of them we're going to talk about. Most of these documents, I do believe, I think it was this one or the other one, they kicked out my grandmother, who was a Native American woman, my mom's mom, out of her tribe. For marrying my grandfather and just to have kids. And they told you know, their mother, right, you know, we're not going to recognize your sons, but we will federally recognize your daughter, which would be my mom, and my mom still has her tribal card. Years later, after I was born, right, like down the line, my mom tried to get me registered, and they said, no, we're not going to accept your son because he's a half-breed and we will not recognize him. So there is a lot of hypocriticism when it comes to native tribes with that. And, you know, the Chippewa tribe, you know, they forgot their history. Like, they forgot. Because guess what? Most of those people on that tribe and reservations are Lakota Indians, too. They forget that. They forgot. And I think they became cold and bitter after they got ran out of the country, out of the state, by the government, which they did, which was because they wanted that oil. The good example, I know many of us play Red Dead 2. The Lapiti tribe of the Lapiti reservation, that's actually based off the Chippewa tribe in that area that got ran out and into Canada, because a lot of that land that the military, the government took, was filled with rich resources and sacred burial grounds that are now gone. You know, this right here,
places like this don't do this anymore. Natives used to have their own. I guess nowadays you call them flea markets and stuff like that. Unfortunately, stuff like that's not around. Well, this is where we get into, pictures. This is right there, Chief Rocky Boy, right there. Great ancestral father. Let's say ancestral father. Right. Pictures of the reservation. Right. I actually have been there. And I got I got a few pictures of that actually. That I will share and show. College. Right there. Burial mound right there. Real one. Some people are like, well, do you guys receive any money? No. Guys, one thing, that's a common misconception. Not every tribe is going to be on federal recognized ground. That's just how it goes. Especially, the ones that do are the ones that have casinos built on. The Chippewa tribe would have gotten money to pay to the people if they never would have got ran out. Picture of my great grandfather right there in color. The Italian grandfather. My great grandmother's headstone. The one I told you, one I was talking to you guys about. It's right here. My mom's dad, his cemetery and headstone. Obituary thing right there. I know there's going to be people that's going to have negative shit to say or whatnot, but guess what? One of this envelope that I have sealed, yes, I am a born red-blooded American, and yeah, I do have and all this is my citizenships, as in, guess what? My U.S. birth certificates, because back in the day, and I'm 35, they used to do 3 to 4 of them. I have nothing but copies in their form, plus the real ones I do keep in my bag, because I live in a very racist state, which is in the state of Tennessee. I know there's going to be some naysayers and shit, but guess what? I got shit I can prove people wrong. It's right here. It was a graduation or congratulations card that I never even saw until like a few months ago, so I added it in there. The people that sent it are passed away. And a black and white copy of my great grandfather's drafts from World War One. And this one right here of my dad's family's stuff. Most of it is split in half because my great aunt has the others and I have these. They were, they were the settlers, if you will, coming from somewhere else, and they were oppressors, is what they were, and they cut my dad off for marrying my mom, who was a black red-skinned half-breed like me, woman. And then they hated my dad even more because then they chose to have a kid, which was me. I guess when it comes to one part, right, the religion part, they were related to one of the popes. Unfortunately, never made it into office. Now, their last name is a Polish last name, and there are many people in their family with different of last names, and I don't know exactly which person it was that could have been the Pope that they were related to. And I would love, to really find out who that was so I can have that as a printed out document. And there are so many of these that, oh God, it just, kind of repeats itself right there in the back like that. I just don't have contact with them. And you know what? I don't care to at all. I really just don't. I just don't. But it might be in one of these. And again, I don't usually read any of this stuff. I just don't care to. Maybe one day I'll sit down and go through this part alone, and it should tell me something. And stuff like that. But I do know, they were involved with the White House, and they actually had their names and last names at the time printed on some of the coins and dollar bills back in the day. Now, I used to have those were took from me from my dad, and again, he didn't like that his dad and his brother gave me $3,000 in old currency like that I never got to see, and my dad and mother, cashed that behind my back one time and spent it because they felt like, oh, you're not deserving of this. They were not the best of people. And my dad was envious of his dad giving me that because, from my understanding is that his dad used to abuse him as a child. Some of this is really old and coming undone. Portrait with all of them when at Yellowstone. And these right here, now you guys can't see that because of that glare, and I have the bigger version of this, the original, put away. So this is them coming into the U.S. Settlers who made a lot of money off being oppressor people and a fortune like that. And somebody in the military my mom knew, back when. This right here, really cool. So this is the documents with Wild Bill and the natives, right? And everything from his stage play. I gotta hold this 2 different ways right there. I just thought a lot of this was really cool. get into a bit more right here. Early photo took when the Chippewa Cree within the Rocky Boy reservation right there in Butte when they were first getting started. There's their crest lands here when I went to. Now this was when years, decades later, when, they weren't in the States anymore, when they moved up to Canada. Reservation here. And right here, I talk about this clip as I was counting, 6 generations back, and most of the family stayed in one place for 3 generations when we lost our home in a fire. Right there, that you guys are going to see in this clip. Again, it's going to be a long video, but I am glad I'm able to really share my heritage and stuff like this, because I'm the only one left. And, because Juan's mom goes, I'm the only one left of the family. Everybody's pretty much gone. This is probably the only picture I got of my relatives on the reservation right there. This right here, Patricia Yellow Robe. I am related to the Yellow Robes. My aunt who named me, she was murdered, an indigenous woman murdered by Gary Ridgway, who was a serial killer, the Green River Killer to be exact. Talks about background and everything, and it's public information and stuff like that. One thing when it comes to murdered indigenous women who are found, but unalive, they change their things when it comes to her. So they said she was picked up. She wasn't. They found her dead in her garage, and there's 2 original crime photos that are out there. I will not show them because I refuse to find them, but I have seen them. The original photo is the garage when it was messed up, because she did put up a fight, and the investigations with the law enforcement, they chose to clean the area and then take another picture to make it seem like there wasn't any struggle that took place. I just want to fill that in. This is from last year. I bought my own card and cake and on my little ceremonial wardrobes right there. So this right here, interesting documents, which I was talking about. Not everybody who is of black descent is African. A lot of black people were reclassified as Africans, and this is a church right in Great Falls, Montana, that was also the first black reform school. Like they had a reform school for natives, well, they had reform school for people of black descent. And I have quite a bit of that information printed, as well as copies of one of my family members who actually attended there as a child and was reclassified. Who was reclassified, right? Who was reclassified? And there's like so much. Like it goes on and on and on. It does. So you guys can look that up. But I have the original photos of these, but these are my copies right there. And my copies right there. So yeah, it just, you know, so, you know, when people try to say, oh, well, didn't you people come from Africa? No, not everybody of black ascent, right, of heritage ascent, you know, is African. Again, quite a few black people came from, yes, over across seas from Spain, Europe. Those who are black Haitians from Haiti or Haitian descent, Jamaica, the Caribbean islands. A lot of people were reclassified as black Africans. And then you have this copy of school certificate of my sister's with a native on it and everything. She did get to go to a native school. Unfortunately, I didn't. And then here we have my uncle, you know, who served in World War II. Copy of his obituary right there. And right here, if I can get it open, a printout of another picture of my great-grandmother. From my understanding, she had a daughter. I don't have any pictures of her. This is the only one. So my grandfather did have a sister who I know about. Like I said, there's like no pictures, unfortunately. Here, we get into my journal photo album. We do. So right here is my family obituaries from my great-grandmother's, right, great-grandfather, my grandmother, my grandfather, you know, right there. My uncle, my cousin who was killed, my cousin buried with his dad. He did, you know, commit suicide. My oldest uncle, second oldest. So all three of my mom's brothers are gone, unfortunately. All their obituaries are here. You know, my dad's obituary. You know, there's that. Right here, original Dragon Ball Z posters, old posters and stuff I had in here that are like really old. These right here I used to keep, not poetry, but like my thoughts of mind process when I was going through my own spiritual journey in this. And it's just writings on top of, just on top of writings is what that is. Even throughout this one, right? Talk about a lot of stuff. Oh yeah. So there's in here, some black and white prints right here. It's me, right there, my two uncles or dad, me, my mom and dad at Yellowstone. More little photos right there. Photo of my grandfather and grandmother in Utah. Go through it. The last picture I ever really had with my dad before he passed during his cancer. So I have, most of these are in color too. My dad with my two uncles. Me and my cousin at Yellowstone. lift this up a bit right here. Hopefully you guys can see this. Right there. So do you see this woman right here? My mom's mom. She was Native. That's her husband, my mom's dad, black and Italian, because that's his dad. You know, she's the one that got kicked out of her tribe for marrying him, a non-Native American who was black. This right here, one of these was my uncle and served World War II. He was an Air Force pilot. Again, I have a lot of family heritage and photos here. With my child, let me get into some that's getting into color now. I still, you know, I have my grandfather's and uncles, you know, shirts. Yeah, one thing I do miss is a few of my pets are gone. Like, that was my sister's dog. I miss that little girl. She was a poodle. George, I miss him. Ralph is still alive. I love Ralph. Another family member of mine who was in the military. These two are gone. My first dog, he's gone. There's Louie. I miss Louie. Tipper, I miss him. My little Peanut. Chico, he's still around. Bob. And Bob when he was a baby. If you guys could see quite a bit of this. That's what my grandfather looked like, black Italian right there. You guys can see that. I guess the word you can call for it is Afro Indigenous. Well, here's better colored colors of it. I even got home videos, like I said, on a playlist. My mother and her cousin, the one who got killed. So yeah, there's like I said, here's a good one right here. So that's my Uncle Ben, served in World War II. My grandfather. They got both blood brothers. Again, same dad, two different moms. His dad, you gotta remember his mom, Black Caribbean. His mother was Native American. Same dad, two different mothers. Hopefully you guys can see that. I'm sorry for most of the glare. I'm trying to hold what I can. Most of this is getting heavy. Here's a color version of my great grandfather. Here's the picture of the sunset I took and the skeleton outline of a teepee in Wyoming. A few other pictures here and there. Those get really, his books get heavier and old, so I'm really kind of hoping you guys can see best you can. Right here we get into pictures of land that from my mom's mom, right, who was Native. So this land was protected, supposed to be tied in with the Chippewa tribe, with the Rocky Boy Reservation. It was there to be empty, never to be built on. And if her kids, family needed a place to go if things got too hard, they would have a place. Well, they never held to their agreement like they were supposed to in those treaties that were signed. And they ended up selling it behind our backs and not see a thing from it. But I got pictures and those documents to show other, to show. So, yeah. In case something ever comes up, I have all of that. There's a few pictures of me here and there. Whatnot. Just kind of going through them. Again, a lot of this stuff's getting heavy. Yeah, that's about it. I'm going to tie in 2 other videos to this. Again, I know it's going to be long, but I just stuff I wanted to share with everyone. That's going to be a linked video. So right here, I will share with you guys, which goes in a bit more of history or what I'm sharing here. And these are what I'm going to say about 35 years ago, when it came to, people, kids who were born here in the U.S. when it comes to, the whole birthright citizenship thing, especially, a Native American, half-breed such as myself. And I'm going to show my documents here. Now, because I know there's going to be a lot of bullshitters and people are going to say, oh, well, you live down south now. Ain't ICE deported you guys? No, ICE is killing off natives. And this is what I carry on me every day to show that I am a U.S. citizen born and raised. So here is what a real birth certificate looks like within wallet size. Within wallet size, right? Because it's going to have that. You can't fake that these days. Without that, because if you go to any, within any state, especially down here, my experiences, especially if you go to like courthouse or, if you're registering for school or DMV, they're going to ask, well, where's your birth certificate? And a lot of people show the big ones that are in here. They'll say, well, those ain't real. Well, what are they? They're birth certificates, but they're not real. So real birth certificates are like these, even though a lot of people don't know that because they got to have these seals, right? And a lot of us, again, at birth, our parents are giving these big birth certificate type papers. This right here is my Native American or Indian medical card. It's right here. It's really, really, really old, and I don't want to unfold it because I'm afraid it will fall apart. But yeah. Now these right here will go into more of documents when it comes to what I'm talking about. And you don't have to be Native. Again, all of us are, our parents, and even if you have kids, they're all given these things and say, hey, this is a birth certificates, right? But these are what government official buildings, if you will, this is what they don't consider as birth certificates, even though, again, our parents, and if you're or somebody who is a child, you're given this too, right? So let's start with this one, right? Because back in the day, you were given several things as birth certificates. I still have a lot of mine. Still have a lot of it. It's like this one right here. He still has that outline ridge thing where you feel the bumps to it. Again, we're all given this. We're saying, oh, well, birth certificate. Again, a lot of federal places don't consider these birth certificates. This is considered as a real birth certificate, like I said, because of that right there. And a lot of this is from native ground, one of very few Native American states. Just like here's this. So yeah. again, I know there's going to be a lot of BS naysayers and bullshitters that are going to want to, you know, say something. Oh, but that's blah, 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 blah. Just like a few people want to say shit on a short. And guess what, son? Not to be on some ego shit, but yeah, I have my fair share in the streets, and I'm certified and legit. And you know what? I made it out of it. So I'm good when it comes to wearing blue and blood territory. Just like I'm good with wearing red and Crip territory. They know me. Cool with GDs too. I know real gangsters, killers, hustlers, drug dealers. So yeah, with that whole fucking remark, and yeah, when people see me that have a problem, they don't do fucking shit.
I don't know how well I got it on the widest lens possible, so I don't know how well you guys are able to see versus what, like, because I can't see the display screen, so I don't know what you guys are able to see, if you guys are able to see this full thing or not. But, you know, one thing I don't usually always share are, you know, certain family native sacreds or native heirlooms. Because I usually share and show a lot of, like, the documents, photos, you know, that I'm able to hold physically in hand. I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys now are familiar with that, see my videos or follow my page. Then, you know, for those that, you know, stumble on this, if you are very, very curious, you know, within, you know, my knowledge, you know, being able, you know, to be able to see and to interested in sharing with documents, then, you know, you can go to the bookmark icon here on my page here on TikTok, and you're going to see a category called collections with the number 2, and you're going to see 2 playlists, and I do welcome anybody to watch those playlists and, you know, check out the videos that I have done specifically. And the first one is called, you know, Native Truth, where I hold things physically in hand, talk about stuff, talk about, you know, within the nationalities, history, you know, debunking a lot of BS as well. And my second playlist is, you know, home videos, mixed heritage. You know, I am Afro-Indigenous, you know, and I show those documents, I show those photos in hand. You know, rarely to hardly any of it green screened at all. And like I said, you know, I do welcome people to that, to even try to prove me wrong, to debunk me on things. And a lot of people don't, because guess what? Like, I'm not going to really name names, but most people, yeah, they can't, you know, they can't come up with anything. And it's not to, you know, a sense of ignorance or rudeness or anything like that. Just, you know, my thing is this: some people can't physically hold or show, right, with certain things, and I'm starting to really question certain people, right? I may support a little bit of what some do, but I don't agree with, you know, every single little thing, you know. So yeah. And, you know, I get into quite a bit of conversations, but, you know, I definitely want to show, you know, and talk about certain native family heirlooms here, and specifically what's in this bag. And I keep this protected a lot. You know, I barely dig it out. And you're going to see there's a lot of layers because, again, I have this thing where, you know, I like protecting stuff. And I think that's something now, you know, not just as, you know, Native American, not just as a half-breed, not just somebody, you know, even if you're black or, you know,
even white, but that's something we need to now. I feel like people take for granted is cherishing certain things from somebody in your family until they're gone. Because what I have here, it's not much, but it's what's left of my grandfather, who was a black man. He was a black man. He was black and Italian. You guys heard me talk about that, show those documents, show those photos. And, he was accepted, adopted, by, natives up north in Montana, specifically Havre, Montana. So a lot of these things right here are of his adopted native heirlooms by natives. And he had a lot more. He had a lot more stuff. And, he was a very beloved person. Very beloved. I wish somebody would have recorded him playing the guitar and singing the blues, because him and my uncles, his sons, would play the guitar and sing the blues, and they're gone too. So the first one here, I want to share, and again, keep in mind, this is pretty much what I have left. What happened to so much of it, when he passed around, what was it, I think 95 or 96, people just started grabbing stuff, strangers would come in and, what do you do when you're overpowered by so many people from somebody who is very well loved? And a lot of people don't, I feel like today's people don't really receive that much love as they're alive, even when they pass, like, you do got selfish, greedy people. You really do. It's like when my dad passed 5 years ago, his family members, decided to come into the damn house without permission when me and mom weren't home, and, they took a lot of his firearms. And then they tried to make threatening phone calls to my mom saying, we're gonna take that life policy money, which is now gone. We're gonna take the house. We're gonna take all his stuff that he made by hand. We're gonna take the car. Because that's what they do to their family members who pass. They take from, that person's extended, wife and child, and leave them with nothing. But my dad set things in place.